We are very happy to be here. I have never been in the north of Netherlands before, and we have been here now for 1 week, and we are very, very pleased with the hospitality. And we also have an exhibition I would like you to come and see at the main building, Harmony, where we have an exhibition about Thor Heyerdahl and his Oscar and what happened later in his life. Here we have a photo from the exhibition at Harmony.
Hallo, ik ben Colleen en ik werk voor het filmfestival. Hier in de Harmonie hebben we een expositie over Thor Heyerdahl en waarom hij het belangrijk vond om een Oscar te winnen. Welkom.
Well, back to Mr. Heyerdahl. He was born in Larvik, which is a town in the southern part of Norway, in 1914. In this house, here was his room, and he was sitting much outside here, looking out at the sea, and had some dreams, I would say, to go south, away from the cold Norwegian climate. He was only 8 years old when he was doing this drawing, and we had some idea that he actually had some plans to go as an adventurer. There is Mr. Heyerdahl in his young years, and he fancied very much to go out in the woods and also in the winter time. And here are some more critical drawings made in 1940, where he's saying something about how the world is not so the problem of the world. Then he met Liv, and they decided that they wanted to try to find paradise on Earth. And here we are in Norway, and they went to the Pacific, to a small island called Fatuhiva. And they were sleeping up here because there was a lot of animals walking around, so they couldn't sleep on the ground. Yes, they had bananas from the trees, and it was wonderful in the beginning. But after a while, they got sick, and they had to find a cave because there was only a boat coming once a year. So they had to wait till the boat was there to go back to the civilization and to Norway. But it was very important, this trip to the Fatuhiva island, because Thor Heyerdahl, he found out that the currents was in one direction, and that it had been possible for people in very old times to go across from South America to this island and populate the island. And the old man, this Teitetuga was his name, he said that his grandfather had come from South America on a balsa fleet. And also the sweet potato was to be found here and here, and so there must have been some connection to Heyerdahl figured out. So then he started on a theory that people from Peru could have transported themselves to French Polynesia. But nobody believed him, but a lot of people didn't believe, because they said they didn't have boats. So Heyerdahl said, well, maybe they don't have boats, but they had balsa fleets. This is the top of a whale shark, the biggest fish in the world. And this is the way they did the cooking. And they also had an amateur radio, so they could have some contact with the outside world. And they went into 2 storms, but they had actually no problem with that at all. And here is Mr. Erik Hesselberg, who was the artist of the crew, and later in his life he also worked together with Mr. Picasso. The expedition was successful, and the balsa fleet was taken to Tahiti, and they had a party, of course. After 101 days, they fancied to see somebody else to speak to, and maybe dance with. And this is the first Kon-tiki museum in Oslo. But the interest for the to come and see the Balsaraft was so big that they decided to make a bigger house after some years. And here is Mr. Halfdan outside the Kon-tiki Museum. And this is the Norwegian king and his son visiting the museum. A lot of people have been to the museum. I think we have reached 16 million people at the Kon-tiki Museum, and it's a private foundation. And here is the original Kon-tiki at the museum, and also Easter Island statues, copy of Easter Island statues. Back to the story, back to 1947. This is outside the White House, and this photo was published in many newspapers all over the world, and people get to know that Thor Heyerdahl had managed to do the trip across the Pacific Ocean, proving that it was actually possible and might have been done in a long, long time ago. And yes, there was a movie, and the movie was very popular, and also very good critics for the film you are going to see. And the Oscar. And that was very important because the Oscar let Thor Heyerdahl, his book was then known to the public, and it was a very good written and dramatic, so people read it, and it was translated to a lot of languages, also to Dutch. And of course he got some money, and the money made it possible for him to go to other expeditions like Galapagos in 1953 and to Easter Island in 1955. Then he hired a ship, this one, with 23 people for 1 year. And that would have cost a lot of money today, and, but he had the money because of the sale of the book and because of the film. And also the popularity of the film and the Kon-tiki itself, and also this Aku Aku book, made our own pop culture. So you got tiki restaurants, and you got tiki bars, and you got shirts and everything, and also the music band, The Shadows, had a big hit, Kon-tiki. That is actually 50 years ago. Well, they had some problems. Because they had done something wrong with building the rafts. So just nearly a week before they should have reached Barbados, the raft sunk. Then Thor Heyerdahl in 1977 wanted to prove that also in the Indian Ocean there had been contact between the countries, not only by land but also by sea in old times. So he built Tigris. That was the biggest ship he ever built. It was 18 meters long and set out to sail, also this time with an international crew. But when they come to Djibouti, there was a war between poor nations, and Western countries have supported these poor countries with weapons. So the war became much more bloody than it should have been, and as a protest for this, Heyerdahl set Tigris on fire. This is Thor Heyerdahl. And this is Anders Berg, who is working in a Swedish company called Zebra Film. And Zebra Film followed Thor Heyerdahl for nearly 30 years, making a lot of documentary films and also a film for TV called The Kon-tiki Man, which is 5 hours film in 10 episodes, and that was sold to 40 countries. It was made together with BBC. And Thor Heyerdahl was very much concerned about the environment, but also he was very keen on getting people from different cultures together. So that's why we have this shirt that you He died in 2002, but the story goes on. We are telling it just now, and you will see the film, and there will be a new film, as I said, next year. And we started this tour in Haugesund at the Norwegian Film Festival. Jacqueline, you was there?
I was there, yes.
Yes.
It
So
was
we have.
wonderful.
Yes. The new Kon-tiki. This is from Malta. They have doing the filming this summer. 6 weeks in Malta, and I was so happy to be there for a week to see the filming, and I will show you some of the photos from the making of the film. Here they are doing the departure of Kon-tiki. This day was 28th of April 1947, and they had more than 500 people dressed up in clothes from that time. It was fantastic to be there and see the filming and to see how involved the actors were. And this is the Kon-tiki that they're using in the film. And what I like very much is that this has been across the Pacific Ocean in 2006 with Tor Heyerdahl's grandson, Olav Heyerdahl. Then it was called Tangaroa, and they made it, because this was a little bit bigger than Kon-tiki, so they rebuilt it to be just the same as Kon-tiki. And here you see the filming, and when you are in 2011, it's not so easy always to do filming from 1947 when things like this happen. This is photos from the film. This is from Fatuhiva. You remember the first island to have a went to with Liv. And from New York. This is filmed in Bulgaria, where they have built up a little town called New York. And here Tor Heyerdahl is explaining his theory with the currents and so on, helping the balsa raft to move in one direction. And here it's out at sea.